Star Trek Picard is an absolute woke, dystopian, trash fire piece of crap. And I certainly had no intention of watching Star Trek Picard Season 3 until something bordering on the miraculous happened. So if you don't know, Robert Meyer Burnett has done a lot of documentary work on Star Trek, The Next Generation, and other Star Trek properties. I actually haven't encountered a lot of Robert's commentary, but I can tell you I'm going to be paying much closer attention. Hat tip to his YouTube channel, The Burnett Network, which I've already subscribed. I considered it absolutely impossible that anyone could ever convince me to give Star Trek Picard, in my view, the worst Star Trek series ever created, another chance. But I have got to tell you, Robert may have just convinced me. So let's take a look at his video. So this was on Open Bar number 36, Hat Tip the Critical Drinker After Hours. Check out the full video for his comments. I've clipped this down, so this is a summary of the parts I want to address.
You know, you've been very lucky in that you've had access to Picard Season 3 before the rest of us. So you know,
yes,
you know what it's like, and I know.
I've watched the season all the way through 3 times. I've called it the Great Star Trek Hostage Crisis. Since 2009, Star Trek has been in the thralls of people that don't like it. There are people that took on the mantle of making Star Trek. When I watched Star Trek '09, I was shown 20 minutes of it about 4 or 5 months before the movie came out. This is J.J. Abrams' first Star Trek movie. I don't think I've ever been seething with as much anger in my life as I was walking out of that 20 minutes.
I wish I could say this for myself. I really do. I remember liking the J.J. Abrams movie, but with serious emotional reservations. I remember walking out of that film and feeling like it was cool to see Star Trek given a new lease on life and a fresh perspective. It was kind of neat to see, you know, large audiences enjoying Star Trek as a, you know, pulp fiction, action adventure kind of story. On the other hand, it was quite disturbing to see Star Trek portrayed as a pulp fiction, action adventure story with almost no... There was no depth to it. There was no think piece in it. And there were several giant plot errors. And it sowed the seeds of a total disaster. I'll let Robert Meyer Burnett give his thoughts, which I now, with the benefit of retrospect, I totally agree with everything he's saying here. And I wish I'd had the foresight to understand that this was what was coming back then.
I hated it so much. And then when the movie came out, I had to watch J.J. Abrams talk about on the interview circuit how he never liked Star Trek growing up, that he was a Star Trek guy, a Star Wars guy. So I have been very dismayed at what Star Trek has become. It's, you know, it's obviously my favorite franchise. I made a movie with William Shatner. I love Star Trek, and it's something that's been with me my whole life. Now, one of the things, and I hated Star Trek Picard.
Freaking agree. The worst Star Trek series ever made.
Seasons 1 and 2. And the thing was, I spent 3 years of my life making Next Generation documentaries. So when I saw, this is a very funny thing. So Terry Matalas, here's some backstory. So Terry Matalas, who is the sole showrunner of Star Trek Picard Season 3, began his career as an intern working in post-production on Deep Space Nine. Then he moved over and he became Brandon Braga's assistant on Voyager and Enterprise. And so what happened was, when he was brought into Star Trek on Picard Season 2, back on Star Trek, they had really decided what they were going to do. And he wrote a couple of episodes, but he didn't have any control over the shape of the show. It had already been decided by Alex Kurtzman, Akiva Goldsman, Michael Chabon. And they all left to go do other things. Akiva Goldsman went off to do Strange New Worlds. Akiva Goldsman had control over that. He left Picard behind him. Alex Kurtzman went on to do his pseudo-sequel to The Man Who Fell to Earth.
Thank God. Two of the most garbage writers, producers, creators in all of woke Hollywood, and that's really saying something. Alex Kurtzman is cancer to Star Trek, and frankly, he's cancer to whatever project he's working on, including The Man Who Fell to Earth. What the hell is that? I don't give a shit.
So Terry was basically given Star Trek Picard season 3 because no one else wanted it. When you watch Picard season 3,
Yeah. Yeah, after Goldsman and Kurtzman, like the locusts that they are, they pick over the carcass of some property, they completely abuse and ignore the fans, they move on to the next thing, and now nobody wants it. Of course nobody wants it, because now that you've had your way with it.
it feels like Star Trek. What Terry wanted to do,
It's hard to believe,
was make
honestly.
a 10-hour Star Trek movie, because none of the Next Generation movies are very good. Even First Contact is lacking.
Disagree
Terry,
there. I
that's his
love
favorite.
First Contact.
It feels like Top Gun Maverick in the Star Trek universe. I mean, they have to deal a little bit with what happened in Picard seasons 1 and 2. But in a way, they openly mock it on a number of occasions. And then when we got into episode 5, there's a conversation somebody I didn't expect to ever see again comes back. And I'm like, oh, my God.
I'm wondering if that could be Data.
There's a conversation that's one of my favorite conversations between any two characters in Star Trek ever. And it turns into a big, it is not about Honey Bunny taking revenge. It's not a replay of Wrath of Khan. It's a much larger story. And it has undercurrents of real emotion and pathos. And I guarantee you, I'll make a bold prediction. There won't be a dry eye in the house at the beginning of episode 9. And no one dies in that episode.
See, this really intrigues me, and this is where he's really pulling me in here, and this is probably the only man on Earth that could probably convince me to give Picard Season 3 another chance. He's not convincing me that Star Trek is fixed. He's not convincing me that it isn't left in a state of total wreckage and dismemberment. He's simply convincing me that there might just be one last adventure that's worth seeing.
Saying that I was blown away by it. Now, is it perfect? No, nothing is perfect. But
it's never what we expected.
A change of any of the Star Trek that we've seen in the last 14 years.
Too little, too late.
The bridge crew of the Discovery. I don't know them. I don't know their ranks. I don't know what they do. The bridge crew of the Titan A. You like all those people. You like all those people in the first couple of episodes. And it feels like a science fiction action adventure show. What Star Trek always was at its core. And I'll tell you something else.
Star Trek's also a moral tale and a think piece.
When what's going on is going on. It's about really smart people really knowing their jobs. They're not crying about it. They're doing it because they're good at what they do. Because Star Trek is about the best of the best.
That is an incredible point. And his explanation of what Star Trek is, Star Trek was always woke. You don't know shit about Star Trek if you're making that argument, because what he just said is what Star Trek has always been. And that is what is not present in Star Trek 2009 and on. And it is certainly not present in Star Trek Discovery. And it's not even in the same universe as Star Trek Picard. Star Trek Picard is about drunk, addicted, damaged, often murderous people who are unlikable and don't deserve any kind of success, and one bumbling old man who belongs in a nursing home on a pointless adventure in a dystopian hellscape. It has nothing in common with any previous Star Trek series. It just sums up what was great about the original series, Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Yes, I do love Enterprise, and that's a subject for another video. But in those series, these were the best of the best. These were humanity's best and brightest. It was hard to become a Starfleet officer. It required a standard of behavior and ethics that was absolutely top of the top 1%.
And what Star Trek has turned into is a show about how mediocrity is what gets you to the final frontier.
Yep.
And Star Trek Discovery to me is the anti-Star Trek. Everything about that show is so wrong on so many levels. Star Trek Picard returns Star Trek to where it should be. About
meaning
human
season
beings
3
and their alien friends striving to be the best they can be. And,
yes.
In the face of great adversity.
Yes.
And stepping up. And it's not about If it's what you feel, it's okay. No. What you feel is going to get
Let's
what
have
you
a
feel
good
is going to
cry.
get you killed. You know what's not going to get you killed? Really knowing how to do your job and working with other people that are really smart and know how to do their jobs.
That is such a freaking good point, because when I'm describing what I think true Star Trek is, I often forget this element that he's pointing out here, that you are on the final frontier. It is freaking dangerous out there, and you must put aside your personal feelings in order to get the job done. And some of the best Picard speeches, some of the best Janeway speeches, some of the best Sisko speeches were always about having to put aside your personal feelings in order to do what has to be done. And if you don't, you're going to get people you care about killed. You're going to get yourself killed. You might get the whole ship destroyed.
We have to put our emotions aside and get the job done. And that's what Star Trek to me was about. It was about being the best person, human being you can be, and finding the best people around you, the best of the best, to go out. And that's what you need to be on the final frontier. Otherwise, you.
And what has happened to our society is that for whatever reason, we have become obsessed with the idea of always giving in to our feelings and always feeling our feelings and telling people about the feelings we're feeling. It is the best way to live, to be the leader of your emotions rather than your emotions leading you. When you learn that you have it in you to put aside your feelings and do something incredible with people who are also overcoming great odds by your side and doing something incredible with you, that is a rush, that is a high that just cannot be bought. That is what adventure truly is all about.
I worry that it's an Andor type situation where it's like, finally, you're getting something that had a lot of thought and care put into it that really captures what people are looking for, but people might not necessarily watch it because they've been so burned in the past, you know?
And I'll tell you what's going to have to happen. First of all, unlike this is wildly entertaining, and it's like Star Trek, it's fun.
I can't believe that this guy has turned me around on this. I can't believe it. And yet, I am forced to consider that if Star Trek Picard Season 3 is a giant success and it's amazing, it might just send a message. I have no hope that Star Trek is ever going to return to its former glory. It just isn't. And he went on to say later in that live stream that, you know, after Picard Season 3, the show's dead. And, you know, everybody's moving on. There's not going to be... So this isn't the beginning of anything new. But maybe it's one more great adventure with these characters that I love. Here's hoping that Picard Season 3 is everything Robert Meyer Burnett says. I would love to see one more good adventure. I have one crucial doubt, however. How in the hell is Patrick Stewart going to pull off a Picard who has any semblance of command? But we'll give it a shot. We'll get back out there onto that final frontier. Those are my thoughts on Robert Meyer Burnett's endorsement of Star Trek Picard Season 3. Buckle up, get ready for some reviews of Picard Season 3, because I'll be right there with you to see it. And until then, sailors and starnauts, thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and I will see you out there. Make sure to check out my novel series, Blood and Oak. It's available now on Amazon. It follows the sword and sails adventures of Midshipman John Sullivan. When his sister is kidnapped and sold into slavery by the Barbary pirates, this daring young Navy officer embarks on a suicidal quest for rescue and revenge. It's available now on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and a fantastic audiobook narrated by Travis Baldry. I'm not just giving commentary and commenting on the problems in entertainment. I'm doing my best to be part of the solution, and I would be truly honored to earn your readership and your support. Until then, I say hail to you, hail to the Fellowship, and hail to the Iron Age of entertainment.